Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit, and welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions. This one came via YouTube, and Mohammed just wants me to review this hand played at 100 limit 6 max on Bovada. So let's check it out. Okay, so in this hand we have Ace-Queen suited on the button, there's a raise from MP, call from cutoff, hero decides to squeeze, and because this is on Bovada, I'm assuming there's really no HUD stats or information and nothing was given to me, so I'm just going to assume we're kind of playing against unknowns here, and in general, definitely going to be squeezing with Ace-Queen suited here, very happy with everything so far. And I'm getting called by MP, fold from the cutoff, go heads up to it, check. Here decides to bet, and here we are. So Mohammed didn't leave me a lot of notes in this hand, but one of the notes he did leave is that his plan here was to barrel on any spade. And one thing you want to think about here is when you 3-bet, MP calls, then you c-bet, and then MP calls, what kind of range does he realistically have? And I'd say he probably has some sort of like showdown value-ish pair. Maybe it's 8s, 9s, 10s, something like that. Think about the kind of hands he would 4-bet preflop. Is he going to 4-bet with queens or more likely just to call it? But realistically, when he just decides to check call you on the flop, you're probably looking at a range that has maybe like a 7-8 suited, but typically it's going to be like pair or showdown value pair, medium pair-ish, heavy. Maybe the occasional float or something like that. But typically I'm assuming that it's going to be a lot of pair type stuff. So I'm really happy to see Mohammed thinking ahead here, thinking about, okay, how can I barrel out? And you just really want to keep that in mind early because you're probably not going to generate a ton of folds right this moment, so you have to be thinking that step ahead. And if the plan is, okay, I think I'm going to fire 2 if not 3 shells, and I think I can get him to fold a pair a very non-zero percentage of the time, then we have a totally fair plan. But don't just bet here and then be like confused and awkward when he calls, because he's definitely going to call you a very non-zero percentage of the time. So in this situation, MP does call, not shocking. Queen on the turn, check, and here decides to check behind. And Mohammed says that he checks and he's planning to value bet on any river. So there are a lot of poker players that would also check this turn behind, and their thought process is, I'm just going to check it back here, maybe I can induce a bluff that I can call on the river, maybe when he checks the river I can value bet and get looked up by pocket 9s, where maybe 9s would have folded on the turn, whatever it be. That's a very common showdown value heavy mindset. And to be honest, I used to think like that a lot as well, but I've changed my mind a lot, especially over the last year or so, and one thing you want to consider on this turn is, let's just say you were sitting here with nonsense, right? Say you were just messing around pre-flop with king 9 suited, whatever, and all of a sudden this queen shows up. Would you bet it? Right? Would you turn your hand into a double barrel bluff? And chances are, yeah, because the queen's a scary card. It benefits you more than it benefits them, and it applies a lot of pressure to all of his pairs, like 8-7, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, all that kind of stuff. So if you would bluff the card a lot, why wouldn't you value bet it sometimes as well? Because if your range is 100% bluffs, you're screwed. If your range is ever 100% value, you're typically screwed, unless you're talking about being against a total fish. So you're in a situation where when you're playing against someone who's maybe even slightly competent, you have to have a balance in your range, right? You can't just be 100% value or 100% bluff. And betting this for value makes sense because you want to be betting this often enough that he has to be continuing with pocket 9s, that he has to continue with pocket 10s. And if you're not doing that, you're leaving money on the table. So in this situation, I don't really like going the showdown value route. I'd much rather see Hero bet this out for something like 55, 60 bucks, whatever he would bet with a bluff as well, and continue that pressure. Is he going to get action 100% of the time? No, probably not. But if he's betting this spot often enough, he's definitely going to start getting second best action quite consistently. So in this situation, again, turn went check, king on the river, and we face an $80 bet from MP. So one of the first things I ask myself in this situation is, okay, is it possible that the king improved MP's hand? Is it possible that somehow he had something like ace-king or king-jack or even king-queen? And I'd say it's probably pretty unlikely. I think ace-king most likely goes for the 4-bet pre-flop, so I think that's gone. If he had king-queen, it's kind of an awkward situation to check call on the flop. It's possible, but And king-jack, same rationale. There's just slightly more combos of king-jack than king-queen. So in this situation, this is one where I don't think the king really improves him very often, and it's really difficult for MP to have like a monster hand here. Maybe he has something like pocket sevens or pocket sixes, and good for him if he does, but ultimately I'm not super concerned about him having a real hand. And remember, part of the reason why you check the turn with a showdown value mindset is so you can induce bluffs on rivers. And you know, the king is not my favorite card in the world because it looks like we could have something like ace-king when we decide to check back on the turn, and him betting into that is a little petrifying, particularly for pot. But honestly, I'm just going to pay this off if I ever get here because you have to show it to me. You have to show me some sort of big hand, otherwise I just have to assume there's a margin of error of bluffing in there, and I'm just going to call and go forward from there. That being said, the turn is way, way, way more important because if you play the turn better, then this river situation doesn't arise. This just doesn't happen. It doesn't matter. So again, I'd much rather see us fire the turn again rather than put ourselves in a situation where we have to dig out a river call. And don't get me wrong, the king is not my favorite card in the world, and it's not my favorite bet size either, but I still think that if we play the turn better, this river situation just doesn't happen. So Mohammed, thanks for the great hand, and hopefully this helps you the next time you find yourself in a similar situation in a 3-bet pot. And if you or anyone else has a poker-related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. Leave a link for that in the description box. And also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding.